Hello, everyone. Time for the last part of our conference. It's great that you're all still awake. There's lots of energizing things coming and important still, all for your health, your brain health, and your bodies. And I just want to thank you from the board. Can everyone take a seat, please? Glenda's asking everyone, please, to sit down now. I'm passing a message. If you could take a seat. Thanks. So I just want to say at this portion of the Aspen Brain Lab that we're really pleased that there's been such a positive reaction. It only inspires us to do better and better each year. And I feel that when you listen to these speakers, you realize what's going on in the world today and the awareness of how important the brain is and the focus that's being brought to it. And it's people like Glenda and all of us who love what she does and all be together is making all of this information available to the public and inspiring the scientists and researchers to move forward as quickly as possible. So thank you, speakers, thank you, audience, and thank you, Glenda and the board. Anyway, our next speaker is Ed Harrold. He's a specialist in health and physical and mental performance with a strong background in neuroscience and cardiovascular health. My husband and I know Ed really well because at one of the first, if not the first, Aspen Brain Lab, I was listening very closely to what everyone was doing. And Ed just struck me as someone who had an understanding about the human body and the way we move and breathe that I hadn't heard before. And we were so impressed that actually my husband and I both became clients of his. And to put it in a nutshell, Ed's knowledge and approach to breathing will make you realize, I've written this and I'm reading it because it's the way I feel, will make you realize that what we all take for granted is really a skill we should hone to protect not only our brains but our bodies. So Ed, please come up.
Good afternoon, everyone. All right, we're in the home stretch. We dig a little deeper inside and hang in there, mentally and physically. So if you could indulge me to just slide to the edge of your chair and clear your hands. Let your eyes close. And immediately, as soon as your upper eyelid comes down, you'll notice a parasympathetic response, or there's a little hit of tryptophan or serotonin that just slows things down. Roll your shoulder blades up, back, and down a couple times, and just let go of anything in the upper back or the back of the neck that might be disturbing the peace that's in your heart and your mind. Begin to breathe as slowly as you can through your nostrils, and know that each breath is a fresh new moment for you to interact with neurologically and emotionally. Begin to notice the muscles you're using to inhale. The diaphragm and the intercostals, the scalenes. And the muscles you use to exhale. Your abdominal muscles, the rectus abdominis, the transverse abdominis, your obliques. And if you're under any type of duress, slow your inhale down to stabilize the mental world. And let your exhale become longer than your inhale so that the fear centers of the brain, the amygdala, the hypothalamus, begin to turn down and they don't draw your energy. The hippocampus and the higher learning centers of the brain alert the body to burn fat. When you get up this morning, you had 30 days of fat stores that the body can utilize as fuel. You have 30 minutes of sugar stores. So letting the exhale become longer than the inhale, you trigger to the brain that you're safe in this environment through your sensory perception. So you're in an inflammation management program right here, lengthening that exhale and slowing the inhale. Try to turn off the analytical mind for the moment, the conceptual mind. And when the next inhale is complete, sit up tall and hold the breath in and contract your abdominal muscles slightly. Just feel the moment first. And then exhale slowly through your nose. If you know how to use the ocean sounding breath from the yoga tradition, allow that to happen. And then pause at the base of the exhale. Your kidneys will secrete EPO, and there's a relaxed energy there on the next inhale, and you're slightly aroused. For those of you who don't know how to do the ocean sounding breath, open your eyes, bring the right hand up to your face. Exhale through your mouth, and you'll sense a neutral tone coming from the epiglottis at the top of your trachea. Your brain just identified that point. Close your eyes, contract that point, and now when you breathe, notice it takes you longer to inhale and longer to exhale. Your five sense perception introverts before you extrovert into the field of pure potential. On the next inhale, place those feet down on the ground and notice how the brain loves to feel you grounded, rooted, centered. On the next inhale, stand up. Hold the breath in, turn your palms away and open your thymus. Exhale, ocean sounds, sit down with control. Isometric contraction, hold the breath out for a moment. Inhale, come back up for a moment. Squeeze your core, palms are up. Exhale, isometric contraction with control, sit back down. 2 more. Hold. If you want to lift your chin, you can. Open your thyroid. Those 7 special hormones from the thyroid. Exhale, come on back down. Inhale, up, hold. Engage your core. Relax your eyes and jaw. Exhale, come down with control. Feet are on the ground. Natural breathing. Bring your chin down to your chest and let the head move right to left slowly. Massaging the trachea, the esophagus, the vagus nerve, the thyroid, the bottom of the brain, bringing fresh blood into the brain stem. Try to link the breath with the movement. The brain loves rhythm. When we get jammed up, we lose rhythm. Rhythm is the key to sustainable power. On the next inhale, lift the chin back. Inhale, hold the breath in. Squeeze your core. Take your right thumb, close off the right nostril, expel the waste slowly out the left nasal channel. Inhale slowly up the left nasal channel. Hold the breath for a moment, engage your core. Close off the left nostril, open, and exhale slowly out the right. Inhale slowly up the right, trace the energy into your left prefrontal cortex. Hold, close off, release, exhale left. 1 more. Inhale slowly, left nostril, right prefrontal cortex, spatial intelligence, intuition, going with your gut. Close off, release, exhale right. Inhale right. Trace the energy into your left prefrontal cortex. You'll find all sorts of math and science and stuff in there. Hold for a moment. Close off, release, exhale. Take a deep breath in through both nostrils. Hold the breath in for a moment. Another moment. Let the pressure build. Now expel the pressure slowly through your nose. Rest for a moment. It's okay to rest. Life's an endurance event. Life's a race that you want to come in last. You don't want to win that race. And then when you're ready, open your eyes. How's that feel? Because you're great. So let's talk a little bit about the fundamentals about what's going on behind the scenes of our conscious brain. The autonomic nervous system plays a huge role in regard to our cerebral activity, our neurochemistry, whether we feel self-confident or we feel like we have no confidence, and how we work with our gut, our emotional intelligence, our EQ. The right nostril, on the inhale, feeds your left prefrontal cortex energetically, and there's a slight sympathetic charge to that. There's a little bit of heat and adrenaline that comes to that. The opposite nostril, the left nostril, is parasympathetic. It's based in cooling, chilling hormones. It feeds the right prefrontal cortex, which is things that haven't happened yet in your life. It's the next chapter. And when you're stressed out, when we're in fear states, it's hard for the brain to interact deeply with what the next gift the universe is trying to give you. So this autonomic response is amazing around the breath, because the breath is one of the few autonomic functions that if you want to control your breath, you can. If you don't want to control your breath, the autonomic nervous system will do it for you. Your body inhales on its own. You know, you just sit here and hold the breath out, I guarantee you the body's going to inhale on its own. So it's an amazing tool that we can use to start to really get centered individually and as a community to really push consciousness. When we think about the science of breath control, let's just make it as simple as we can. The length of your breath, how long it takes you to inhale and how long it takes you to exhale, is going to trigger a neurological act that is going to either lengthen your thoughts or give you short, bumpy thoughts. When the breath is short and bumpy on the inhale or exhale, the brain takes a seat back and it begins to become aggressive or defensive. And in that bumpy thinking, we begin to lose our grounding rods. And we're dancing way too much. So slowing the breath down, taking a rich, full inhale, diaphragmatically breathing. The length of the breath is going to dictate the length of the interaction of the scalar thoughts that are taking place in your brain at any given moment, which gives you a greater chance to control the flashcards of the photons you're watching in your brain. The pace of your breathing, the slower you breathe, the greater cardiovascular health you're going to have, the greater blood pressure you're going to have, more optimal neurochemistry you're going to have, and you're always going to burn fat. You're going to save your precious sugars for your immune system so that you don't get sick and you can reduce inflammation. The depth of the breath, how much do you want to inhale? If I told you you could inhale for minutes, you would say, Ed, nah, I couldn't do it. Practice this. When you're inhaling and inflating these lung tissues fully, you're feeling the moment first before you interact with your mental and neuromuscular skills. So stretching this lung tissue is huge because as we age, after the age of 30, lung tissue begins to degenerate. So practicing the depth of the inhale, the brain will naturally reduce the information further in whatever subjective state you're working with to maybe give you a way of going off a path of a behavior, choice, perception, expectation that's no longer serving you. So you remain completely present. One of the great things about nostril breathing is how it affects the 12 pairs of the cranial nerves. So when you think about it, when you breathe through your mouth, the air just comes in unfiltered, cool, and it goes right into the upper lobes of your lungs, which are imbued with sympathetic nerve endings. Blood pressure goes up, heart rate goes up, thoughts start to fly, digestion starts, viscera goes quiet, and you just start to digest yourself, and all your sugars burn up. So when you think about it, look at how these cranial pairs go back. First, cranial nerve, the nostrils, eyes, ears, coming down into the low jaw. My invitation for you is to keep your eyes and low jaw relaxed as much as you can for the rest of your life. So you're getting as much energy to flow through these cranial nerves. So they're reading the environment and giving you the best opportunity to interact with the creative force of the universe. so that you can get out of your own way where you need to and let the universe fulfill the dream that you're ready to do. So the nostrils and the cranial nerves play a huge role in how we set up the moment, how we perceive what's happening. And then obviously the 10th, the vagus nerve, plays a huge role in inflammation reduction, fat metabolism, and stalling aging. When you think about this vagus nerve, it's so long. It starts in the center of the brain, comes down through C5, C6, intervenes through the heart and lungs, through the diaphragm, and it has 10 little tentacles that go into all the organs of the abdomen except for your adrenal glands, because the adrenal glands aren't designed for relaxation, they're designed for fight or flight. So the more we can amplify the electricity that goes through the vagus nerve and amplify the effects of the diaphragm moving downward, creating great physical posture, it gives us the ability to negotiate with the mind so that we control the thoughts. The thoughts don't control us. Why is that important? Because there's no one on earth harder on you than you. We're not really good judges of ourselves. So settling down and bringing up strong communication and amplifying the vagus nerve is a huge thing that comes from diaphragmatic breathing and using the ocean sounding breath that we did a few moments ago. The diaphragm muscle is the #1 muscle that's going to stall aging. When you have a breathing practice, first I invite you to start it passively. Use it at home, on the couch, on a chair, and learn different concepts and strategies of how you're going to make this the strongest muscle out of your 610 muscles. And when you strengthen this muscle, your posture is always erect. And when the spine is erect, you use so much less energy to get through your daily routines. And when you use less energy during your daytime routines, you sleep like a baby at night. If you're exhausted from what goes through the day, there's not enough energy for the brain to feel safe enough to move us into the delta waves where the brain can reorganize itself and give you skillful action of the next day. So work with this diaphragm muscle. On the inhale, what it does is it presses down. It gives you a vertical press down onto your enteric nervous system, your liver gallbladder on the right side of your belly, and your stomach spleen on the left side of your belly. Notice when you breathe through your mouth. Just take a couple breaths through your mouth right now. Notice your diaphragm doesn't move south, it just moves east and west, and your body weight collapses down onto your GI tract. Inflammation begins to form around the gut, and it's difficult to get out as we age. So as you begin to strengthen this diaphragm muscle by breathing through your nose and creating the suction and pressure in the lungs, many, many good things happen that stall aging and keeping inflammation markers in the gut very, very low. So your digestive fire is high, but your heart rate and blood pressure are low. We have a second brain that folks are talking about, this microbiome of the gut. So it's fundamentally in your solar plexus. So when you're breathing through your nose and this diaphragm is pressing down approximately 20,000 times every day, you're massaging this enteric system. 90% of the neurochemical serotonin, which is so needed in our stress-filled culture for all sorts of different reasons, is going to come up the spine and help the brain navigate the amazing mental world that you're hosting right now. The dopamine, 50% of the neurochemistry, is going to come from the gut also. So dopamine, we've heard a lot of different things on it today, but at the end of the day, if you don't feel good about yourself, it's very difficult to sequence wonderful thoughts about yourself. It's almost like a bottom-up type of learning. So feeling good, to me, is the foundation of excellent mental sequencing. When we talk about the dynamics of the breath in the most simplistic way, we are slightly aroused when we inhale. There is a slight spike to the heart rate and blood pressure. On the exhale, it's very cooling. So what I like to do is prepare myself on the inhale for what my intention is. I find that gap between inhale and exhale, and I let the water settle. On the exhale, I manifest what I was attempting to bring to life on the intention. When we think about the mental dynamics of what's taking place in the brain, so much of us are in a reactionary mode. We're not receiving the information fully and processing it before we begin to take skillful action. So when your heart rate and blood pressure are being controlled by your breath, we can kind of prepare ourselves for skillful activity. The main thing is get prepared. When you get up in the morning, the first thing I invite folks to do is get grounded in gratitude. You are you. There is no one else on the planet better than you. There is no one else on the planet worse than you. You are you. You are unique. And you have things that you need to get done. So getting grounded early in the day before you get into your full-on beta mind is very, very important. And as you become prepared, participate fully with the moment, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. And then above all, if you don't manifest it in this breath, be patient with yourself. Don't have a big pity party and shut down the process of neuroplasticity. Just because you don't have something today doesn't mean you won't have it tomorrow, if you can just stay chill with your original intention. So when we think about the emotional dynamics or EQ that come from breath, number one, emotion, which could classically be energy in motion. And that's happening down here. All of your energy predominantly is down here in your GI tract. And keeping the inflammation down through the digestive process is huge. So you have this energy, which is basically a slave to what your thoughts are or what your level of awareness is. So as we begin the transformational process, and we begin to see that there's things that I need to do in my life before my life ends, your energy, or the capacity to do stuff, will be a slave to your level of self-awareness. And again, with us being so hard on ourselves, we really have to be skillful in what I call noticing. When I charge this, this happens. When I charge this thought, this happens. Noticing is a huge tool because you're not taking sides. It's almost like you're in the role of a witness. You're just observing this amazing inner landscape that's been gifted to you. So energy is a slave to awareness. You know, when we have the body relaxed and we have the pace of the thoughts relaxed, we can go beyond the old model of the HPA axis, or fundamentally, when something goes wrong in our life, or we stub our toe, or there isn't a sequence of thoughts that's comfortable for us and we begin to suffer, the first thing we do is we stop breathing, and we start drowning out of water. And this HPA axis goes into action to either take a life, save a life, or freeze. And this was great thousands of years ago when the majority of the people on the planet weren't educated. But now, education is a right to everyone on the planet. And in that, we need to be aware that thoughts aren't facts. And when we can have a relaxation response in a breath, and when there's stress in our life, we can transcend from this old animal model into a more refined model. All new awarenesses, as we age, come from the hippocampus, and it evolves into new awareness. So the hippocampus can give us more information around the old answers. The pineal gland is going to relax us, create space, and the serotonin is going to keep us calm. And this is a wonderful way for all of us as a species to keep the planet filled with peace rather than war. And it begins internally with each of us. We just did some diaphragmatic breathing. You can breathe diaphragmatically through your nose, fast or slow, depending on what your energetic needs are. Breath retentions. You can hold the breath in, you can hold the breath out. You can always hold the breath in twice as long as you can hold it out. Alternate nostril breathing. This is a wonderful way to create flow, or to create a way that the brain is always creative, increasing imagination, going beyond fear states. Looking to synchronize the brain is one of the great things that alternate nostril breathing does. The idea is to be awake in your dream. And when we're exhausted, we just fall asleep. But when you can be in these theta brainwave patterns where you're not fully awake and you're not fully asleep, you're like the same way you were when you were 1 or 2 or 3 years old. You're just reading the environment, you're downloading the information, you bring it into your heart, and you have it there for yourself when you need it. You just have to remember that you know how to do this because you've already done it. when we're talking about wellness, one of the things I do with companies that I work for, number one, is brain breaks. Every 90 minutes or 2 hours, we push the computer away. We do some sort of activity. If you're a creative person, we get you out of the right prefrontal cortex, we put you in the left. If you're a numbers person, a lot of to-do lists, we get you out of the left prefrontal cortex, we put you in the right, and we cool down that left prefrontal cortex. Brain breaks are great. The less energy you use during the day, the greater sleep you're going to have at night. One of the things you want to do is you want to learn how to create flow in your life. The old yogis knew about this, and now it's just being proven in science that when you can create the 5 neurotransmitters, the norepinephrine that gives you that laser-like focus, so you're not distracted from the part of you that says you can't do it or everybody else is better than me. When you bring up that dopamine, you feel really good about your chances to take down whatever's in front of you and open that door. The anatomine, that bliss molecule that allows both prefrontal cortexes to communicate through your corpus callosum, so there's only one voice in your head, not many. Serotonin, obviously you got to be cool, you got to cool the fire. And obviously the opiates from the brain, the endorphins, so you can handle higher and higher levels of resistance for you to meet the goals that are going to satisfy you. The boundaries of the self are false. There's progressions that we all have to go to achieve our goals, but there is nothing that you cannot achieve. Make a plan, stick to the plan, be persistent, learn how to breathe. There is no such thing as failure, there's only lessons, so stay with it. I'm launching a new book today, Life with Breath, IQ plus EQ equals a new you. It was great to be with you all here today. I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Two more speakers. I'm going to do this real quickly. Bill, if we had a little video, I'm skipping that video. I'm going to introduce Nathan Huber. I don't know how many of you have seen Nathan Huber outside with the virtual reality machine. Anybody tried it? Good. It's time to go out there and do it. Anyway, Nathan Huber is going to come up in a few minutes. Nathan, are you here? Because I haven't seen you. There he is. Come on up. Nathan's a high-tech entrepreneur and virtual reality specialist. I met him at a conference a couple years ago. We were showing off the latest in Dell's computer virtual reality devices and entertainment. When I put on the VR goggles, I rapidly went down into the ocean swimming with sharks and whales. It was completely terrifying. You can see this for yourself outside at Nathan's display table. It's just around the corner in the back. And I knew I wanted our audience to be able to experience this. I have learned that virtual reality terrifies and thrills for the same reason. Its power to create deep and intense emotional experiences. So with all of the R's, VR, AR, MR, they are spatial and immersive. They lead to quick learning and longer memory of that learning. And that's going to be so important in the future for education and tons of things that are going to be disrupted in our coming world. What is so special about Nathan is that he and his company are finding many uber creative ways to use virtual reality for social good. So let's hear it for Nathan Huber.
You guys hear me? Oh, hello. I'll try and make this as fast as possible because there's some really amazing stuff that's about to come up with Amanda. You guys are going to be blown away, and we're really on the tip of the iceberg of something massive. And I could talk for hours, and I have a history of doing that, so I will try and just make this like as short as possible and concise. So 3D Live is the company we started years ago, about 8 years ago when we were, or 10 years ago when we were working with Michael Jackson to build a massive stereoscopic experience for his This Is It show. He died 15 days before we were able to show the world what we were working on. and it kind of just took the wind right out of our sails. But we still saw something very amazing. And what we were building was something that had an impact on me and others in such a way that we were like, look, we've got to create 3D Live, and we've got to push this technology forward because this is the future. And I think this button advances. So what we started doing was building really immersive creative experiences, from concert tours to theme park attractions, and obviously moving into AR and VR. The main reason those things are similar is you're using both of your eyes to fuse these feeds into your visual cortex to create something dimensional. And what's happening there you don't realize is your brain is working really hard, whereas if you close one eye, your brain's still working hard, but it's not burning those kind of pathways to fuse two disparate points of view into something dimensional. So if I were to stand here and talk to you for a while, and then all of a sudden this whale started floating out right here next to me, you might freak out and maybe run out or be like, wow, that's amazing. You're not going to be able to forget that happened, though, because that's weird. It's crazy. This thing's floating out right next to me. It's coming out. It's starting to immerse your world. It's becoming an immersive object in your world. So we started playing with all these things because we saw the power of that. And really, that's the same thing as AR and VR. You're using both eyes to create a world where you look around and everything around you can be magical, new, different, impactful, funny, scary, you name it. So we were having fun with the entertainment world. But frankly, doing roller coasters in VR, giving people information about how to have a positive impact on the ocean, it's one thing, it's great. But we're just at the tip. There's so much more we can do. So we really wanted to move into, let's take this into mixed reality experiences where we're combining these tools. We're combining tactile feed devices. We're combining motion simulators. We're combining VR devices. We're combining AR. We're mixing it with atmospheric surround systems. Those things became probably the most exciting things we've been doing in the past 5 years. From there, we got a theme park attraction from doing all those weird things. All of a sudden, someone came to us and said, look, you guys are good at this. Let's make a theme park attraction. So we opened one last year. It was something I never thought we'd ever be doing. And it was all just because we were working in these immersive arts. That's fun. It's great. But what's more valuable than really trying to advance humanity and trying helping other people's? Let's get involved in making people's lives better. Laughing is good, makes you feel better. Getting scared actually is kind of good, right? You get that boost of energy from your, whatever you neuroscientists might say, I'm not really sure, but it feels great, right? So we thought, okay, why are these things so amazing? Why are we feeling these things? Well, there's been some studies done that are proving that, look, when you're using stereo vision, you're increasing your ability to retain information. I put too many words in this presentation, so I'm just going to go real fast. There have been some studies done in Europe where basically teachers are taking these tools into the classroom. They're giving people 3D glasses. They're giving them VR glasses. They're giving them AR glasses. And what they're finding is 87% of the students are way more interested in the experience. 70% of the teachers, the behavior of the kids. I was a bad kid in class. I was always in trouble, laughing and doing, but if I'd had AR glasses, VR glasses, or experienced something in 3D, I would have been far more engaged. 70% of the kids are far more engaged. 92% of the students are being attentive, even at 5-minute intervals in 3D, as opposed to 46% in 2D. I mean, that's insane. 96% of the students maintain their attentive behavior after the experience. So you're getting that brain going, and it doesn't want to shut down, even after you've had this immersive experience where something's coming out and surrounding you and interacting with you and informing you. Also, the test scores. 86% of the students have improved test results after they've had this experience, as opposed to 52% in 2D. So, I mean, that's massive, guys, right? Can you imagine going back to high school in being able to ace all your classes just because they've changed the methodology of teaching. If you're a surgeon, you're learning to be a surgeon, and you're going to be messing with someone's brain or someone's spine or whatever, you're going to want to remember all that stuff. That's why they have these studies where they actually have to work on cadavers, because they have to have physical, dimensional objects where they're using both eyes. They used to do endoscopic surgery with fiber optic cameras, right? They weren't stereoscopic at first. They were monoscopic. That's like getting involved in surgery with one eye closed. Can you catch a frisbee with one eye closed? Can you catch a baseball or football with one eye closed? It's very, very difficult. The risk of injuring someone during those surgeries was massive. So they started to develop, one of our engineers actually, my mentor, developed the stereoscopic endoscopic surgery tool. So now you're not poking organs. They used to literally have to poke organs during surgery to make sure they had the devices in the right place. Poking organs. I have a personal experience where my father had some heart surgery. They poked his heart, didn't notice they nicked it. Sewed him back up, everything was done. He flatlined. Thank God they were able to go back and save him. But the sac around his heart filled with blood because they were poking organs. It's insane. So stereo immersion is huge, obviously, right? There's more studies that have been shown when they do blind studies and stuff, like they'll give people images, a series of images that are line drawings, color photos, and a real object. The results are the real object is the thing that they're able to remember more than any of the others. It's just like what I was saying. Like, if this was a movie of me standing here talking to you, you're not going to remember as much as if you actually see me moving around, just like everybody here, right? So we're finding that this stereo learning and entertainment is very, very impactful on the brain. You're going to remember, you're going to learn more, you're going to be more engaged. That leads us to where we are today, right? We started with the stereoscope. VR and AR are really just an old school stereoscope from the 1800s, except now we have an accelerometer that came with mobile phones. So we just put this in place of what used to be a stereo image through an old wood viewer. Now you just put a phone there, and you have VR. And you have game engines to drive real-time interactivity. And you also have 360 cameras now. So now we can take you places. We can put you on the top of Mount Everest. We can put you in the middle of a wave on pipeline. And you can put on this headset, and you can go somewhere you've never been before. And this is something we can share with people that will never maybe even have that opportunity. We're opening up crazy opportunities. Augmented reality. How many people here have even heard of it or tried it? Okay, great. It's just like wearing regular glasses, but having a virtual world interact with it. So I could put my hand up, and you could look at me, and through augmented reality glasses, I could have that whale fly out over my hand. It could happen right now through augmented reality. You could be in surgery, cutting someone open with your augmented reality glasses on, and you're able to track everything you need to do, identify certain organs you need to suture. You're going to have assistance. It's already happening right now. These tools are being developed and being tested. Okay, so my job is to trick your mind. And using virtual tools, I'm tricking your mind. Whether it be a theme park ride, whether it be a concert tour where I have visuals flying out over Flying Lotus, who's an artist. If you're going to be in LA Friday, check it out. It's going to be awesome. So anyways, the things to do, what I have to do to trick you is I have to obviously create dimensionality that's exactly like what you're used to. Zero or minimal latency. That's doable now because of these game engines. So meaning if I turn your head to the left or the right, it's not going to be an image that slowly catches up. It's moving with you in real time. Believable physics. Whatever we're creating for you, it's got to match what you've come to know as reality over the past however many years of your life. Surround sound, with surround sound basically. We've got 5.0, we've got atmospheric surround sound. All these things are tracking your head So you can really, if there's something happening visually through augmented reality or virtual reality, there's a bee flying around, you're going to hear it buzz over there, and it's going to come right by here and go around there. We can track graphics and apply sounds to them now. So we're able to create these things that you're used to seeing in real life, but they're not really there. And then obviously the visual surrounding, that's what we're doing. So all this stuff is excitement, it's entertainment, yeah. But let's get into compassionate care. Let's put this into ways to help people. And I wanted to show this really quick video because it really is touching on one of the most important things about what we're doing in the future. You can just click on it. This is Tim.
Okay, so Tim, we're going to go over these questions. Who are you? And you said, I'm Tim Bartow. I'm a filmmaker and a writer. Right, good. And look, there you are. You look like a little prince there.
Oh my God.
I know you are so cute. If there were one thing that you want the world to know about you, what would it be? I am not mentally challenged. People see me in the wheelchair. They assume that I have cognitive challenges or delays. They treat me like a child when they see the chair and don't recognize that I have dreams and aspirations like everyone else. I want to travel, to expand my world, and to escape the daily monotony of being in a wheelchair and having my mobility restricted. Not being able to drive a car or even get on a bus, taxi, train, or plane by myself. It feels bad. Feels stressful and frustrating, and then you said, ugh, something like that. Yeah, that. What's something you wish you could do? I want to make movies, and I want to change the world through my storytelling. I want to have lots of friends who can relate to me. I wish I could walk. I want a girlfriend. I would love to be in a movie or on a stage, in a musical on Broadway. I would change people's perceptions of persons with physical and cognitive challenges. They have lots to contribute, and I know that I'm tired of being marginalized. I would like to live with people like me who strive to make a difference in the world. So Tim, when I was in New York visiting my good friend, she let me experience this type of storytelling. Do you know what these are?
No.
They are VR glasses. Is anything happening?
What the hell?
What happens if you look up?
I see a shark.
Uh-oh. Swim, Tim, swim!
I see him. Oh, the other touch me. I'm in the boat.
Where are you?
In the woods.
Are you walking?
No, fly.
Oh my gosh. I knew that this would be a game changer for you. There are hundreds of stories.
Like everything like everything.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Where in the world would you go?
Stay in Africa, England, China, Japan, Antarctica, and France to see the Eiffel Tower and go. Amen. And Germany, go get some beer and barbers. I live in the island. My goodness. Got it this time.
So that's insane, right? It's crazy. That guy, he's suffering from cerebral palsy. He's totally there. But he can't go somewhere. But now we can take him there. We can change, we can increase the positivity in his life. And we all know that the better you feel, the better you are, the better you live, the better you heal, all these things. So that's just the first thing people are using this for right now. We're currently developing a oncology treatment program at 3D Live, and that's one of the things is pain management. Using distraction, you're able to, with VR, you're reducing the amount of pain you're receiving. It's insane, because you're able to distract the mind from what you're going through. There's also what's going on right now at University of Southern California. They've been using virtual reality to treat post-traumatic stress. There's a lot of people out there that have had really terrible experiences, and what we can do is we can, with a therapist, sit you down and help you go through these things and learn to manage them and learn to heal from them and not be afraid of them. We can reduce the reliance on opioids. That's huge. People's livers, kidneys are being destroyed right now, and we can fix that through VR, AR, and all these other immersive tools. I'll go past this. It's just so much. But anyways, it's a safe, controlled environment. It's being used to just better people's lives in this way. Also, education. People are going into hospitals. They're terrified, right? They don't understand what's about to happen to them. We can take them through it before they ever go there. We can help them relax and understand that you're going to go down this hallway. You're going to hang a right. Everything's going to be okay. Now they're not going into something, not knowing what's about to happen to them. Their stress levels are reduced, their blood pressure's down, they're relaxed, they're going to have a better surgery, or better, whatever the procedure might be. So stress is something that also this is going to be used for, and is currently being used for. Education. Nurses need to be educated on how to better treat their patients, how to have better bedside manner. Also, these caregivers also go through stress themselves. So they need to learn how to deal with stress. All these lessons we can provide for people to just help everyone get more balanced and more, regulate their feelings, their emotions, their nerves, so that there's a better working environment where there's more productive outcomes from the procedures. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to race through everything and skip over everything at the same time. So what this is doing is basically we're increasing efficiency, right? With these technologies, we're able to combine information. So if I'm going through a treatment, I go home with my VR headset, I could be going through weight training or some kind of physical therapy, and the nurse, the attending nurse, or the doctor could be connected via network, not necessarily having to be there. He could be monitoring 10 patients at once, 20 patients, without necessarily having to hire 10 doctors, 10 therapists to be there, because we're able to connect everything, because this is digital technology, obviously, right? We can use haptic feedback, motion trackers, to make sure they're going through the right therapies and actually doing the right extensions they need to do. Gosh, there's so much. It's like trying to explain an explosion that hasn't happened yet, but it's starting to happen, and what could come of it, you know? Managing patient files. Everything can be completely connected through these digital transformations in technology. So anyways, this is what we're getting into. I'm sorry if I was a bit scattered, guys, but I'm trying to race, because what Amanda's about to show you is something that is very much tied into these technologies and bettering people's lives.
these patients were able to regain some level of bladder control, which is very important, and also bowel function. They were able to basically, for the first time in many years, to control their routine, bathroom routine, in addition to be able to move and to feel their bodies again.
Yeah, Amanda's coming up.
I think many of you know Amanda, our dynamic, beautiful, powerful woman. After a ski accident, Amanda was in a wheelchair for 22 years. She's now walking toward us with her exoskeleton. This is her 4th appearance at Brain Lab, and I'm going to let you tell her why we asked her to come this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Gigi. I've been paralyzed for 25 years. There's 12,500 individuals who sustain a spinal cord injury in the United States every year. Stroke and others with neurological impairments expand the population of those who are paralyzed that use assistive devices for mobility. Think of the brain. Give it information and it'll figure it out. That's what Dr. Bacchiarita said. Did I say his name correctly, Gigi? He's the father of neuroplasticity, applying the theory that the central nervous system, the spine and the brain, can heal and change itself with stimulation. We know that the spinal cord is as malleable and as smart as the brain. Virtual reality is a viable tool for neurorehabilitation. And as you just saw in the video with Dr. Nicolelis, he is getting results with 8 paraplegics who have spinal cord injuries to restore motor function and some sensory function. And what we saw is that amazing step-by-step connection where the brain meets the body through virtual reality, walking simulation, combined with exoskeletons, and also tactile feedback. Now, there's another company called Hakoma, and they are also doing research studies, including virtual reality with a robotic gait-assisted device that's a stationary device, but the person goes through the motions, working a lot with hemiparesis and stroke individuals. They too are getting results with gait improvement, with motor function and balance. Now, I'm the executive director of Bridging Bionics Foundation, and Gigi, Glenda Greenwald, is on our board of directors. And we have a big vision. What happens is we dream big, we make it happen, but we're also getting results. In the last 20 months, we have gifted the use of our technologies by giving over 1,400 mobility sessions to locals in our community who have neurological impairments. Thank you. It's a complete gift. But what we're doing is we're upping our inventory. We've just acquired a brand new robotic exoskeleton named an Indigo. The training will begin this week. It's valued at $175,000, and it's going to put us on a par with the top neuro rehab centers in the world. What our vision is to somehow weave in visual reality. Now, visual reality is virtual reality combined with augmented reality, mixed reality, a complete immersive holographic experience with our bionic exoskeleton technology to improve and enhance neurorecovery, motor function, but also minimize neuropathic pain. Is it possible? We believe so. We're seeing the results. I dreamed about this 15 years ago, and we're in it. So let's do it. Imagine imagine the human-machine interaction forces measured by an exoskeleton to animate a virtual image or figure in virtual reality, in real time with no lag time, in a mirrored reality. But let's take it a step further. Let's incorporate haptic sensory technology in a completely immersive holographic experience. What would that look like? It would be Amanda standing in a robot, an exoskeleton, in a room in Colorado. I go through the motions. I have tactile sensors on my body. I see a perfect Amanda walking on the beach in Australia. I feel the sand squelch in between my toes. I smell the ocean air. And I feel a gentle sea breeze caress my skin. All while I'm in the room in Colorado. Is it possible? Imagine the healing potential, psychologically and physiologically. It's not impossible. Mick Ebling, we have our Daniel. Where are you, Mick? Are you in the room? We have our Daniel. Nathan Huber, are you ready to create? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
If I ever wondered why I did this, we now know. To connect Amanda and Nathan Huber, possibly Mick Ebling, big things are going to happen using immersive VR therapy and paraplegics. It's going to be very exciting. I'm very proud that we were able to connect all these people. Very exciting. We're at our last, it's going to be one tiny bit first. We're at our last speaker, and he's kind of going to be introduced by a short video, but the short video is Jerry Seinfeld. And you wouldn't think Jerry Seinfeld had a connection to Transcendental Meditation, but in fact, he has a long history with Transcendental Meditation. So we'll listen to this for a few minutes, and then Rona Abramson, one of our board members, is going to introduce Bob Roth.
Thank you. So nice to be here. So happy to do this. Anyway, so I want to talk to you about TM, which I have now been doing 41 years. 41 years. I I don't remember exactly how I started. It was some kid I knew. I had just gone to college, and we were still kind of in the flush of the feeling of the 60s, and I just wanted to try any new thing that I heard about. And so I went and I learned TM, and I do remember the very first time I did it, and I remember that I was up the entire night because I never felt that good before, and I had terrible acne. I think I was about 18, and it all just went away, and I became a world famous comedian. That's my story. That's the entire story of my life. And now here's the tragic part of my TM story. Slightly tragic. So I'm doing TM from 1972, and I started, and I didn't do the morning one. You're supposed to do it twice a day. And I stopped doing the morning one pretty early in me doing it because I didn't understand getting out of bed and then resting. I had trouble with that concept. To get out of bed, now rest. Okay, so I don't know, maybe I did it for a couple of months and then I just stopped, but I was very regular with my afternoon meditation. And when I was doing the TV series in which I was the star of the show for 9 years, okay? That's a lot of work. But it was a lot of pressure and a lot of work, and it was all great, but never could have accomplished it without TM. But I was not doing the morning one, as I told you. And this past January, Bob Roth, who everybody loves, he taught my kids TM. And so one day we were standing in my kitchen, and I was telling him about something that I was doing, and he says, you really should try doing the morning one. 41 years in, I find out I'm not doing it right. That's the tragic part of the story. Well, so Bob introduced me, which I should have known 40 years ago, but I didn't, to the morning TM. And my entire energy and focus and ability to function all day and come home and have the family. I'm a 60-year-old guy with little kids. It's all screwed up. It shouldn't be like this. And now I am functioning on this level that I really did not think was possible for someone my age. And I just thought it would be too much. So that's how my life changed dramatically this year, meeting Bob and doing TM properly. And I can't tell you, and I've become obsessive also talking to people about it. My press officer is here. I got him to do it. I got my assistant. Every person I meet now, I'm just grabbing them by the lapels and going, you gotta do this. Because it's just a dumb way to live not doing it. It's just dumb.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rona Abramson, and I've never followed Jerry Seinfeld. But anyway, I'm not even sure Bob needs introduction right now, but I'll say a few words. I've known Bob for over 25 years, and even though the term new billionaire didn't exist then, I think Bob has always aspired to that. And he's always wanted to bring meditation, and specifically transcendental meditation, to a new level of public awareness and widespread application due to the growing body of research on the Transcendental Meditation program. I think to that effect, he has been succeeding enormously, working in so many capacities to achieve his goal. He has taught TM to thousands of people over the past 40 years. He has authored a book on TM, which was translated in 20 languages. His second book on TM is due out in February 2018. He organized countless press conferences, bringing leading scientists together to create greater public awareness for the powerful benefits, proven benefits of TM. For the past 10 years as founding CEO of the David Lynch Foundation, he has brought TM to over 500,000 inner-city youth in over 35 countries, to veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress, and women who are survivors of domestic violence. Bob also directs the Center for Leadership Performance, another nonprofit which brings TM to Fortune 100 companies, government organizations, and nonprofit charities. He's the host of the Sirius XM radio show, Success Without Stress, and has spoken to industry leaders at such gatherings as Google Zeitgeist, Aspen Ideas Festival, Wisdom 2.0, and Summit, to name a few. I think Bob is certainly someone who has demonstrated what vision, dedication, and great talent can achieve. So please join me in welcoming Bob. Oh, are we going to show? Oh, so before Bob comes up, we're going to have another look at a video, and this one will be on the work of the David Lynch Foundation. Thanks very much.
The idea of what you're doing, of putting this into schools, I think is a fabulous thing.
The thoughts have to settle so you can learn. And meditation is the process of settling the mind.
Before, I held everything in. And when I couldn't take it anymore, I took it out on somebody else. Now, it just goes away now.
I feel like all the stress is just leaving my body. All the situation and problems are just clearing out.
I got more concentration. I social better. Everything just like 2 times better, basically.
It took me roughly 5 years to admit that I had PTSD. Transcendental meditation has taken the stress out of my life. It has made me relax. The anger's gone.
Just because you can't see a wound doesn't mean it's not there. To know that something as small of a concept of 20 minutes, twice a day, can make me feel like I feel now, that's a gift that you can't buy.
Within 90 days, I was off all the anxiety pills, antidepressants, the pain medication. You don't have to suffer anymore. There's a better way.
I didn't know I had post-traumatic stress. The first experience meditating with TM, my body got a chance to just really relax. And my self-esteem is a lot better than it's ever been in my entire life.
When I started meditating, it changed my demeanor. I really felt like it changed the dynamics for me, the way I responded or interacted with people. And also not sitting like this, because I got rest.
I went through a really dark time in my life where I didn't want to wake up in the morning at all. Now when I wake up in the morning, I feel happy, I feel blessed.
Meditation has significantly helped my recovery, and I think it should be taught in every rehab facility there is.
Transcendental meditation is the only proven form of meditation to reduce blood pressure. It affects the cortisol, the epinephrine. The whole system just relaxes.
When people start to meditate, they're doing things more effectively and more efficiently, and time seems to open up.
I meditate before every performance now. I find that it keeps me out of my head. It's a much more enjoyable way to perform. TM has helped me to be more open to new possibilities.
I really have found that I am more aware of those stressful moments that are still going to happen even after meditation, but my reaction to them. I recognize them, and I just am at a peaceful state.
You have to give yourself a break. You have to give yourself a moment to revive, unplug, rejuvenate, and Transcendental Meditation does that for me.
I think this is what people need. They don't need high-minded talk so much as results.
Real change for the good truly begins within.
I am
overwhelmed by emotion from today. I think everybody feels that. Just every talk, the conviction, the passion, the wisdom that every speaker brought, that the way I'm just up and down and pulled and meditation's going to come in handy this afternoon. When you think about someone who's a meditation teacher, traditionally, I ain't that guy. I'm a skeptic. I'm not into woo-woo. I love science. I'm evidence-based. Just quickly, my background of how I got here to helping to run this foundation is I grew up in a very political family in the 1950s and 1960s in the San Francisco Bay Area. And my family was so political at that time that I tell people that I knew I was a Democrat well before I knew I was Jewish. Now I'm an independent. But, and I worked for Bobby Kennedy. As a high school senior, my interest was always in social transformation. How can we empower people to change the world? And I went to college, Berkeley, with the idea of going to Bolt Law School to become a lawyer so I could become a United States Senator. This was 1968, like Bobby Kennedy. And I wanted to work for equal justice. And went to Berkeley, and and I wasn't, it was either far left, far right, druggies, this. I wasn't anybody. I was just this guy who wanted to make a better, transition from school and make a better world. And it was so extreme and so intense. Well, first of all, I lost my fascination with politics because I thought, well, it's interesting, I'm never going to heal the wounds of the country through politics for me. I'm still a political junkie. I still, unfortunately, watch Morning Joe every morning. But so I shifted to education, and I thought, I'll write educational curriculum. I'll empower kids from kindergarten to be able to be strong and make a change in their life and do something that the politicians might never do, which is really empower them to have a life. Along the way, a friend of mine who I trusted saw me, so I was pretty stressed, said, you should learn Transcendental Meditation. And I had two responses. Number one, it wasn't a word even in my vocabulary. And number two, I said, I got enough issues with my own religion. I don't need another one. That's just me. But the guy said, no, you could be 100% skeptical. This technique ain't any of that stuff. You can just learn it. You can take it home with you. And I learned it. And that was, as an 18-year-old, June 28th, 1969, 48 years ago. Dr. John Gray, who I knew as Johnny, has been meditating 50 years. So I learned it. Many people who learn to meditate, their first thought is, oh, this is going to make me enlightened. This is going to make me transform me. One of my first thoughts was, I want to teach this to kids, particularly inner city school kids. 3 years later, I had a chance to study with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and I think John was around one of those times. I became a teacher, immediately came back to San Quentin Prison and taught inmates in death row, taught kids in the schools in the Mission District, if you know San Francisco, and Hunters Point. Went on to teach TM at Apple Computer down in Palo Alto, and also General Motors in Fremont, and taught thousands of people, loved it. Always in the back of my mind was kids, at risk, people, just always. 12 years ago, the wonderful filmmaker David Lynch, anybody seen season 3 of Twin Peaks? Someone once described David Lynch as Jimmy Stewart from Mars. So anyway, we started this foundation to address the epidemic of trauma and toxic stress among at-risk, underserved, and actually under-resourced populations. And as my wonderful friend Rona and her wonderful husband Jeffrey, as Rona just said, 500,000 kids now in schools all over the United States, in the Middle East, in Latin America, in Africa, and now we're working with the Veterans Administration, and we're teaching it in VA hospitals. There's a big study that's just coming out in August, funded by the VA, a $2.4 million grant, looking at the effects of Transcendental Meditation on reducing severity of trauma symptoms and depression on veterans with post-traumatic stress compared with something called prolonged exposure, which is one of these things where you watch the veteran sees the trauma over and over and over again and numbs them. And so this has been found to be actually more effective. And now in New York City, we're partnering with the city with the Family Justice Centers. And this is an amazing organization, part of the city there, that works with women and children who are survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. We've taught 500 women and their kids in the last 3 years. We just got a grant from the city to teach another 500. So things are changing fast. And I think it's very interesting that I am the last speaker talking about a meditation which could be called a technology of consciousness, is a technology of consciousness, accessing the latent resources of the human mind. This is not a philosophy. This is not a guided something. This is accessing a part of the brain. We are hardwired to actually access a field of silence that lies deep within every human being. That sounds pretty darn poetic, pretty darn sketchy. How would we know we're experiencing a field of silence that lies deep within every human being? And the analogy I use is an ocean. You got waves on the surface of the ocean. You're on a little boat. You're in the middle of the ocean. You got these choppy waves. And you think, oh my God, the whole ocean is in upheaval. But if you could do a cross-section, you'd realize deep within the ocean, at the depth of the ocean, it's pretty darn calm. The nature of the ocean is turbulent on the surface and calm at its depth. And we use that as an analogy for the mind. Surface of the mind can be very turbulent. I like to call it the gotta mind. I gotta do this, and I gotta do that, and I gotta call him, and I gotta call her, and I gotta make a list, and I gotta find the list, then I gotta make a new list, and I gotta slow down, but I gotta get going, and I gotta get to sleep, but I gotta get up. Anybody? Not? So it's a natural human desire anywhere in the world. I'd like to have some inner calm, some inner ease, some inner creativity, some inner focus, something inner. I'd like to have a break from the chatter, from the noise. But the operative word there is inner. And the question is there such a thing as an inner? And if so, how do we get there? So when we talk about transcendental meditation, we hypothesize. Because fortunately, because I wouldn't be here otherwise, you don't got to believe in nothing in order, just like you don't have to believe in VR for it to work. You don't have to believe in eating a healthy diet for it to work. You don't have to believe in anything in this. We hypothesize that deep within every one of us is a state, level of the mind, scientists call it a state of restful alertness. And during transcendental meditation, we access that. It's not a technique of mindfulness, and I have been trained in mindfulness techniques, and probably many people here, and those can be very effective tools for coping mechanisms, for training the mind. This is not either or. Not manipulating the waves, but accessing that transcendence. And what does transcendence mean? According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, which I just looked up this morning for this talk, it means going beyond the limits, ordinary human limits. And we're always looking for transcendence, always. When we try and test our limits, when we run our 14th or 10 millionth marathon, we want to run faster, we want to climb higher, we want to do more, feel more, love more. We break. We want to break boundaries. We want to go, okay, I'm tired of that restaurant. Let's try this type of food. Let's go to a different vacation spot. Let's meet new people. Let's join a theater class. Let's do something extraordinary. We're looking for transcendence, something out new, right? The problem is when we look to change on the surface, one action for another, the extraordinary becomes ordinary. And real transcendence is not here. Real transcendence is accessing my own deep inner resources. How much time do I have? Because I'm going to be right on time. 10 minutes. What am I going to do? No. Huh? No, just a second. I do have a few more, and then we're going to do something. So, how do we know that's happening? How do we know we're accessing that quiet level of the mind, that deep level of the ocean? By the way, some people hear that, they go, transcendence, deep level, quiet. They go, and it's done 20 minutes. They say, how do you know when your 20 minutes are up? I say, look at your watch. This is not going someplace. We're just going from, we know what it's like when our kid is like a hothead, boiling over with rage. We also know, we say, oh, she's cool, calm, and collected. Cooler minds will prevail. We already know that. So how do we know in TM we're accessing those cooler, calmer levels of the mind? The body. Science. And the reason why we're in programs in all these schools all over the world, and we are working in companies and professional athletic teams. Last year we taught half the NBA referees. They really could use it. Is because of the science, the outcomes, the data. And what happens is as your excited thinking mind, and you receive something called a mantra. It's a word or a sound that has no meaning. And it's not used like, you're taught in individual instruction. This is not a mass meditation. This is not something you just get online. You have your own mentor, your own teacher, and you're given a sound and you're taught how to use it properly as a vehicle to access that calm, that silence that lies within. When that happens, as measured by oxygen consumption, your body gains a state of rest in many regards deeper than the deepest part of deep sleep. We've all heard about cortisol levels. Cortisol levels drop 30 to 40% during TM. Even more important, the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive functioning, the higher brain, judgment, planning, decision making. Stress takes this part of your brain offline. And during TM, during this meditation, you can see on the EEG machine and also brain scans connections between the frontal lobe and the back of the brain, neural pathways, connections between the left and right hemispheres, even connections within the frontal lobes. There's also an increase in blood flow to the prefrontal cortex and a decrease in blood flow. By the way, I'm going to be talking a lot more about this tomorrow at 12 o'clock at the Aspen Chapel. I'm going to talk much more on, you're all invited to come. But I think the sense of brain, this is so interesting, this simple, innocent, ancient 5,000-year-old meditation that I teach a 10-year-old kid with ADD who can't close his or her eyes for 30 seconds and can sit for 10 years, when you're 10 years old, you meditate for 10 minutes, and sits for 10 minutes, and you can see on the EEG machines these changes take place. So there's an increase in blood flow to the frontal lobes, there's a decrease in blood flow to the brain stem, which is the arousal part, which means we're deeply rested and alert. You ever heard of the default mode network? That's a subconscious creative center of the brain, and when we're stressed and tense and really focused and working hard, there's the default mode network, means our ability to be creative. There's a decrease in activity. And when you get away, you talk about these brain breaks, you get away and you get away from the computer, your brain rests, and so there's an increase in this isn't that interesting, default. And not this late, Bob. This is a long day. And let me get really into it. No. So suffice to say, a whole constellation of very profound changes. And that's my phone telling me. See, I organize events like this, and so I am going to end in less than. We are going to do a Ayurvedic pulse meditation thing. But I just wanted to say that if you are, how many people here eat well? How many people eat well on a regular basis? How many people exercise? How many of you exercise well on a regular basis? How many of you have tried meditation? How many of you meditate on a regular basis? Yeah, so I am here to say this is a missing essential link. So much of what we do for wellness is from here down. And meditation, properly understood and practiced. And tomorrow I do want to talk about the different types of meditation, focused attention and open monitoring and transcending and the research on all of that. But meditation, properly understood and practiced, number 1 should be easy. Number 2 should be effortless. Number 3 should be satisfying. And most important, it should inform and be infused into your life. It should have a significant transformative effect in your life. Because what we've heard today, so much of what we've heard today, choices. Do we make the choice when we see that kid on the bus sobbing with snot going down his nose? Do we say, "Kid, are you okay?" Or am I just wrapped up in myself? And do we choose the right foods? And do we choose to breathe properly? And do we choose all these different things? And even if we have an exoskeleton, are we happy inside? So this is the focus. Access that deep, transcendental level of your own inner nature, few minutes twice a day, and do other meditations as well. There's not just one exercise that we do, there's many. So there are many approaches. I really appreciate being invited to speak here again tomorrow at 12 at the Aspen Chapel. And we're going to do something now. It's a little, okay, we're going to do something now. It's called, anybody here know Ayurveda? Okay, so Ayurveda has this one, this really isn't, like this isn't TM and it's not, but I love this thing. And we actually teach this to little kids in schools before they get to learn to meditate. So you take your left hand, sorry, my back to you. Your right arm like that, and you put your 3 fingers on your pulse. Got that? Okay. These 3 fingers of your left hand on your pulse. No, not like this, like that. And so you can feel your pulse. Now, if you're really good Vaidya, you can diagnose diseases from the pulse. But we're not doing that right now. What we're going to do is the blood, this blood that's pulsing through your body, circulating through your body, travels through your body over and over and over again. I want you to close your eyes. We're going to do this for like 2 minutes. And just be with the sensation of the pulse. You can open your eyes. That's nice. I hope to come here in the next month or so and teach a course on TM for people who are here if you're interested. You can go, it's a nonprofit organization, you can go to tm.org, find out about TM. You can go to davidlynchfoundation.org, and I think we're all going to applaud for all the wonderful people who put on this event, but I feel obligated for just a big. Thank you very much.